Anything wrong with the show today?
Welcome in. It's our Monday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. It's our February 11th, 2019 edition. My producer's trying to get me centered here in the camera. And it's early Monday. He always gets me good. But we got a real good show for you today. We're going to have on contributing editor for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Steve Andrews. Steve's going to come on and we're going to talk Razorback softball. Coach Courtney Deifel they were able to go down to Louisiana and come away with a very impressive weekend as they moved to, I believe, 6-0, 3 shutouts. Mary Half doing what Mary Half does, 2 shutouts over the weekend. Autumn Storms, great pitching effort. And from all intents and purposes, this is supposed to be Coach Deifel's best team. We'll talk to Steve and see just what the makeup looks like for that team. And then following Steve, we're going to have new 2020 vision. They call it the Diamond Game. New wide receiver commit, Xavier Capers of Alpharetta, Georgia, Denmark High School. He's the first one to call the Hogs for 2020. We're going to bring him on and see just what all went into him giving Coach Morrison. What's the new name I say, D? Coach Mo, because he brings Mo and Mo kids to the University of Arkansas. So I want to bring in Demi. What's going on, my home guy?
No much trying to get all my equipment together.
For those that comment, I didn't bring my headphones today. So Demetrius is going to be producing the show without a pair of headphones. This is going to be the best production that we have had. So he's going to be doing a lot of ad-libbing off me. So that's what that comment was for. Next time, they're going to go in, equipment jail, TH?
Yeah, I'm not going to allow you to take any equipment home, man.
Also, too, Arkansas's women, unfortunately, were not able to come out on top as they dropped the home ball game in the play for K at Bud Walton Arena to the Auburn Tigers. 74-72, tremendous effort from sophomore shooting guard Chelsea Dungy as she 41 points, Demetrius, which is the second most points recorded by a Lady Razorback, in Bud Walton Arena. But unfortunately, we're not able to come out with the win. Also, too, over the weekend, Coach Mike Anderson and the Arkansas Razorbacks also, too, dropped a road victory. A road contest, I should say, at Columbia, South Carolina as they went down 77-65 to Frank Martin and the South Carolina Gamecocks. And real quick, Demetrius, is there cause for concern? Both teams lost this week. I mean, you're looking at 5-6 for the girls, 5-5 for the guys heading into conference play. Girls have 5 games left. Guys are 8 left. Where are these two teams at? Do they make the tournament, or is that still yet to be determined?
I'm not sure between what 2 teams are going to make the tournament, but I think one of the 2 teams will make it. I don't know if that's going to be men's or women's, but I think one of the 2 will definitely get a chance to go to play some postseason basketball.
Man, when you look at this men's team, up 50-37, roughly about 8 minutes, and I didn't get a chance to see the ball game. You saw the momentum shift. What all went on to such a big swing in that ball game, Demetrius? When you hear you describe it, it was just a total sudden collapse, from this ball club.
We were talking off air earlier, and I think you hit it right on the head. I think it was just guys getting too comfortable with the lead. In high school, you can go down there and get up, 15-20 and know you're going to win the game after that. But in college, it's a different ball game. These guys are playing to get to that professional level and get to the NBA. So I think they have a level of expectation to finish. And I think that's what Arkansas is trying to learn how to do, how to finish the game, because there's moments in the game where they really have the game bagged up, but they don't know just really how to wrap it on up and get out of there with a dub. And I think that just comes from a lack of experience, and I think just immaturity from the younger guys and just still learning how to gel together.
I agree, and in speaking to the young man Keyshawn Embry Simpson, Reggie Chaney, Isaiah Joe, throughout this season and multiple availability that we've had with the media with those young men, they continue to stress the maturation process. And I think that's where it is when they multiple times this year had big leads, still trying to learn how to put their foot on the opponent's neck and really start to value each and every possession. I think that's really where they still have to take that growth. But this team is getting better. Now they're in must-win situations. You can't stub your toe too much longer. I think it's going to take 19 to 20 regular season wins for this team to be considered as a legit possible entry into the NCAA tournament. But real quick, we're going to step away. We caught up with Coach Mike Anderson following the South Carolina game. We're going to let you hear what Coach Anderson had to say, and then following Coach Jay, Steve Andrews, contributing editor, time to talk a little Razorback softball as they had a great weekend. We'll find out what Courtney and the bunch accomplished over the weekend. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479.
Obviously disappointed, that on the outcome of it, but let's give credit to Frank and his team, South Carolina team. I thought they did what they had to do to protect the home court. The veteran guys, I thought, settled the young guys down, and I thought the second half, Lawson, he was real effective in the second half, as well as the Bryant kid. Just made some open court plays. But I thought we were in position to get some momentum, and our defense kind of let us down from that standpoint. But it's a 2-point game with 3 minutes to go, and we just got to continue to learn how to finish, especially against a good team in South Carolina. They've been really good at home.
Mike, I know you guys had scouted Lawson and Bryant. Just what were they doing in those final 15 minutes that made them so difficult to stop?
Made shots, made plays. That's what they did. They attacked and made the open shots. We had some breakdowns on defense, and they made us pay for it.
Yeah, Mike, you guys are right there. You absorbed a big blow, and then you got the lead back, and then they kind of dominated the last 4 minutes or so. What happened those last 4 minutes?
Well, we couldn't score, and then of course, then defensively, I didn't think we did a good job defensively. We may have ran out of steam. I don't know, but it just seemed like every loose ball they came up with, they were making shots. I mean, we didn't shoot the ball well. We shot over 38%, I think, and they shot 54%. So I thought they just, and Silva, I think he did a good job of taking over, going down the stretch, going into him. And I thought Gravett did a good job of just calming him down today. I really did.
And South Carolina, they hit threes real well against Georgia, but on the season they're like 12th in the league. Today they shot real well. What do you think of the three-point shooting? Did it surprise you?
Well, no, we left them open. We were playing some zone, and again, we had some assignments where we didn't get out there. When you're wide open, you're gonna knock them down. But I think most teams in our league, if you leave them open, they're gonna make shots.
So you felt like it was defensive lapses?
I thought defense, but they made shots. I mean, they did. They made some good shots. I thought a couple of times we were up big, and I thought we gambled. We gambled a couple of times, and they made us pay for them. And I thought that just shifted the momentum with about 11, 12, 13 minutes, something like that there. We were right. I mean, we had the game going in the direction we wanted to, and I thought we started gambling. And with the inexperienced team, that's what happens. You start gambling, they make you pay for it, and all of a sudden the momentum kind of shifted, and game on.
Daniel, he got fouled. He just
Welcome back in. It's our Monday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio as we come to you each and every day here from 1 to 2 p.m. on KDSJ 479. And want to bring in a good buddy of mine and talk Razorback softball as they open up their season in Lake Charles, Louisiana over the weekend. A good contributing editor of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, Steve Andrews. Steve, welcome to On the Hill, my man.
Hey, Pat, how you doing, man?
Doing real good. Talk a little softball. Arkansas comes out, preseason, a lot of national hype, as high as 12, as low as 14. Talk about this softball team under Courtney Dyfel and just, how they were able to get into a quick jump and, what this will do for them going forward.
well, I mean, first of all, man, springtime coming up, Pat, and Razorback fans have to be rejoicing. After the football season we went through, we're struggling a little bit in basketball, baseball, and softball. That's the hottest things going on campus right now, along with our track program, obviously. But man, what Coach Deifel's done in 3 years is really nothing short of amazing to me. And I've covered softball for a few years at a few different levels, but I mean, she's just got it done and went out and got pieces and brought them in from all over the country. She's got young girls, she's got seniors, she's got transfers, whatever it's taken to put this team together. And they are well-rounded from a pitching and a hitting standpoint. They've added a little more speed on the base paths this year. They pretty much got all the bases covered, so to speak.
What's been the big key for Coach Deifel? When she came in, Steve, I believe she won 7, and it was less than 10 games in that first initial season. 3 years later, she's in the College World Series, and in year 4, this could be her very best team. A lot of national notoriety. What do you think the major contributor has been for such a quick turnaround under Coach?
I mean, for me, if you had to pick one major, I would have to say Mary Half on the pitching mound. That girl she's special, and I mean, even as a freshman last year, she was one of the best pitchers in the country. So I only expect her to get better. And as obviously with softball, and unlike baseball, pitchers can pitch a lot more and more. I mean, I'm not talking every single game, but they can pitch every other game or so. As long as they get some rest. So she's able to pitch a little bit more. And then you got Autumn Storms, who's right there with her, and they complement each other so well. Mary's got just a devastating rise ball. Autumn's got a drop ball that just falls out of the zone. So, if you can kind of pair them up against certain teams, certain lineups, they're effective. But really, Mary has just been, she's been a diamond in the rough. I still don't know how we got her here from Florida, but we did, and I'm expecting big things. But there's also a lot of other pieces around her, a lot of hitters, some power hitters. I mean, our top 2 hitters this weekend, one was a freshman, Maggie Hicks, who's from Sheridan High School, and then Ashley Diaz, who's a 4-year veteran. And so, I mean, right there just shows the mix of what we got.
When you look at this softball team, I want to piggyback on Diaz. This was a young lady who had, an okay season last year, but she comes out of the block. I believe she comes up with 4 doubles this past weekend to start off a really good, potential at the plate. Talk about her. What is the ceiling for Diaz if she continues on, week to week with what she started off in that batter's box?
Well, I go back to her freshman year. She was basically, as far as I can remember, maybe Courtney Deifel's first real recruit here. She got out of California. And Diaz came in as a freshman, and I thought just tore it up. She led the team in about every offensive category. She hit quite a few home runs that year. And I was just thinking, man, the sky's the limit. And then the last 2 years, they've not been bad, but not like that freshman year. So it's really good to see her come out of the blocks this year and really be lighting it up at the plate. Granted, it's only 5 games under, but she is such a key element. I remember a couple of years ago, they were kind of struggling. They beat Texas A&M for a home game. They kind of turned the tide, and she was the one that got the game-winning hit in that game. I remember that coming up big. And so I think she's just one of those players that in certain situations she's going to come up big. And she mans first base over there. So she's just solid, and I expect a great senior year out of her.
Steve, you talked about the recruiting part, and we knew what Courtney's, ties to the state of California. Her dad's a very well-known softball high school coach in that state. With her ties to that state and being able to bring the girls, as you said, Diaz out of California, Mary Half comes from the Florida area. I believe Autumn Storms is also, too, from that California area. Who are some of the new girls, so to speak, that'll be trotting out on the diamond? I know you talked about one freshman, but who are some of the other young ladies that Razorback fans that make their way to Bogle Park might need to keep an eye on?
Well, we got some good freshmen. we've got two transfers that I think are just one of them, or both of them really, to me, steals at this point. One is Gibson out of Arizona State. She came in. She was an all Pac-10 or Pac-12, I guess now, all Pac-12 performer as a freshman last year, Danielle Gibson. And I mean, how we got her, I don't know, but I'm not going to ask any questions. And she came in this weekend. I mean, I think the first game she had a couple hits, 3 RBIs, really started out well. And then Ryan Jackson, she's a transfer from Bethune-Cookman, and she's the 2-time MEAC Player of the Year for that conference as a freshman and a sophomore. Now, Granted, the MEAC isn't known for softball, so to speak, but she was still at a higher level, much higher level than anybody else. And she came in, I think she got about 4 hits this weekend. I think they're expecting really good things out of both of them, just add to what they already had. And then, like I said, Maggie Hicks, the girl, she plays shortstop out of Sheridan High School. Obviously one of the best freshmen we got coming in right now to get that done. So, I mean, there's just so many tools for this team. I really think the sky's the limit. I think they can make a deep run, a legitimate deep run in the NCAA tournament. Well, I mean, I had a pretty good one last year, but I think they could even go further this year, if they just keep it up.
When you look at this conference, it's widely considered probably, if not the best, one of the best in all of collegiate softball. Last year I believe there was 9-10 teams that made the NCAA tournament. How tough will this league be? Arkansas's picked 5th. Who are some of the teams that Arkansas really needs to look out for if they're going to take that next step to probably in that top 3 or 4, and possibly even number 1?
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, we're basically ranked 12th in the country and then picked 5th in the SEC. I think that right there shows you how tough this league is. I mean, you got Alabama who won a national championship a few years back. They're always strong. Missouri, LSU. I mean, you just go down the list, and there's no real slouches. And then you look at Arkansas, and you think, okay, well, a couple of years ago they weren't very much, but now they are. They've turned it around. It doesn't take a lot. You get the right people in there and the right pieces in there to turn the program around. And I think basically across the board in the SEC, you're seeing that. Girls are wanting to go play in the SEC. And that's why this league as a whole is being elevated.
Talking with Steve Andrews, contributing editor for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. He covers Arkansas women's softball for us here on the Hill. Steve, the big $1 million question. With Courtney being able to come in year 3, get them to the Collegiate World Series, heading into year 4, they're 12th in the country, a big national brand. Now let's to believe, we always wonder how much longer until other schools come in and try to hire Courtney away. There's been rumor that Courtney's passed down a few jobs. How much longer is it before Arkansas really needs to worry, or you think they should be in a position to worry about her possibly leaving, anytime soon?
Well, I kind of joked with her a couple of years ago, actually, when she was just basically turning the corner, and I said, I got a lot of confidence in you. I hope you're going to stick around when you make it big. And she kind of just laughed and said she was here to stay. But you're right. The only job I maybe could see her, and this isn't any inside source, just common sense, is she went to Cal. She was a Cal Bear, and then she helped them lead them to a national championship back in the day, and that's her home. I don't know if that job would ever present itself, if she would consider it. But I think she's really happy here. I mean, the facilities we got here really are as good, if not better, than about any facilities in the country, across the board. I mean, I know a lot of people are upgrading now. But what we have here, the resources, I mean, even now you're seeing the fan base. I think she's happy with that. But ultimately, it comes down to money. We all know that. So, yeah, they may have to pony up and say, is it worth it to keep her here if that does come up? And, I don't know without seeing figures, but I think she's a pretty important piece right now for what she's done. And I think she's a great part of the staff and the fabric up there on the Hill. And I hope we keep her around for a long time.
Hey, well, as always, man, love your coverage. We'll talk next week. And Arkansas is on their way to a nice little vacation here coming up, as they'll be making their way over to Mexico real soon. But as always, thanks for taking time out on the Hill, and we'll be talking with you soon, Steve.
Thanks, Pat.
That was Steve Andrews, contributing editor for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Steve covers all women's softball for us here on the Hill. That pertains to the Razorback softball program and Courtney Deifel. But now we got to hype it up just a little bit. We're going to talk about the Diamond Gang and the new 2020 vision. They've had a new entrant, Xavier Capers of Alpharetta, Georgia, Denmark High School. He's the first commit, and he's the first one up here on OTH. It's on the Hill with Pat Jenkins, and we're going to be going momentarily. We came up with audio from yesterday. Arkansas, unfortunately, dropped a home decision to the Auburn Lady Tigers, and we caught up with Coach Mike Neighbors and Chelsea Dungy. Here momentarily, we'll bring you audio. We're going to let you hear what they had to say post Auburn. Dungy in 41 points. I'm telling you, Demetrius, it was a performance that I hadn't seen from a individual lady in a Razorback uniform in quite some time. Shamika Christian comes to mind. Was the last young lady I seen do the things that she was able to do. Chelsea was 10 out of 17, 17 out of 18 from the free throw line. But we caught up with him, and momentarily, I think the best producer, he always seems to find things, and we'll bring that audio to you. And then
there's no
following
such thing
that
as
audio,
a perfect writer. This is why I use Grammarly to check my work.
Alpharetta, Georgia, Denmark High School. He's up next. It's on the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479.
Well, I think, again, when you've got to put it in perspective based on where we had played the last game, to come out and respond after being down, I think as many as 17. To come back, there's a lot of teams that would have quit, especially with Mal's injury. That's not what this team has ever been about. We didn't quit down at LSU the other night. We just didn't play good. We just didn't play good. And I said it out there, and I'll say it to you guys. It's going to sound crazy, but that loss is easier to take than this one, because this is that one where you go back and you dissect every possession from possession 1 to possession 85. But it's good lessons for us. But certainly – a proud coach, bounce back like we did, have an opportunity to win it against a really, really good team that's starting to play good basketball. Even though we'll probably beat ourselves up for a day or two, there's a lot of positives to draw from and head into our bye week.
Coach, number one, what happened to Malika at the end of the half there? I couldn't see on the opposite end.
She rolled an ankle. She went to make a move, and I think she stepped on a kid's foot. And there's very few kids as tough as that one. So when she goes down, it's hurting. But we've got the best athletic training staff in the world. They got her ready to go. And I was surprised when she said she could go. And she went in, and then she hurt her hand. It wasn't the ankle again. Her hand went numb on her. So, I thought her presence, the coming back in, was big. It lifted everybody up. I think it gave us a spark. And she was really, really good defensively down the stretch.
Just talk about Dungy's performance, especially in the second half.
As good as I've ever seen a kid have, just in the circumstances, needing it, knowing we needed it, not being reluctant when her number got called. It doesn't surprise me one bit. She works at it. She's gotten herself in pro shape to play 40 minutes against that defense and do what she did. I wasn't here for the other performances that people are talking about out there, but we had a lot of alumni here telling me that's as good as they've ever seen, especially in this building. And, man, I'm not going to tell you it's not one of the top performances I've ever seen, period.
Chelsea, just talk about, what it feels like to know that your team needs a big effort and to come through with that.
It feels good because I know that they have my back and that they trust the fact that when I put up a shot, it's going to be a good shot. It's either going to be a drive and an and one, a drive and a kick to shooters that we have, Toll-Free Jay. They have confidence, and I have confidence in them too. So
there was a lot of steps on the floor tonight, seeing that. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you we've had it since the beginning. We don't have it. We didn't initially. They were still filling each other out. But game respects game, and our kids respected what was happening out there, and I think they were looking for her a little too much sometimes, to be honest. I wish that were maybe a shot or two we would have taken in an effort to get it to her. But, that's a thing, again, in year two we'll take. If we're in year 5.
Welcome back. It's our Monday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio, coming to you live here each and every day, Monday through Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. on KDSJ 479. And real quick, before we bring on our very, very special guest, he's part of that Diamond Gang. They call it the 2020 Vision. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Lindsay & Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also too in Rogers. The Baymont Hotel, it's located at 735 South Shiloh Drive, and Locomotion, located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall. So with that out of the way, and without further ado, let's bring on the newest and the first 2020 commit for the Arkansas Razorbacks and Coach Chad Morris, Xavier Capers of Alpharetta, Georgia, Denmark High School. Zay, welcome to the Hill, my man.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Get off into it. You committed to Arkansas. You're the first in the Diamond Gang. What does that mean to you, and what went into such an early commitment?
That meant a lot. My relationship with Coach Steph, Coach Morris. It was just like a family environment. We don't have that player-coach relationship. We kind of have like that family relationship. Like every time Coach Steph would come to basketball, it was kind of like I had one of my family members come to see me play. So we just kind of had that relationship, and that played a big part in my commitment.
You have a head coach and an assistant there at Denmark High School. They have university and Arkansas ties. Coach Crowder, who, by the way, Xavier, was my high school coach here at Fayetteville. So I know you were coached really well. I mean, you couldn't have went wrong with Coach Crowder. But also Coach Jones, the D-line coach, was a former player here in Fayetteville. What did they tell you throughout the recruiting process about the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville?
They really told me that they'll support me on whatever school I choose, and they didn't really pressure me into choosing Arkansas. That kind of just was a family decision, and that's what we felt is the best school for me to attend. But Coach Jones and Coach Carter, they talk about Arkansas all the time, about it's a family environment, that they have the best fans in the country, and definitely.
What went into it? What went into your decision? I know you took a lot of unofficial visits, Georgia Tech, Clemson. I know when I spoke with Coach Crowder several months ago, you were one of Clemson's top targets. Talk about that process, and how tough was that, Xavier, when you have so many suitors, to make such an early decision? How tough was that for you?
It was really tough, I really did love Clemson, especially being one of my first offers. But, I just kind of felt like that I didn't feel part of the family, and that played a major role in my decision. And I'm still going to take my business, even though that I am committed, because I don't know what God has in store for me in my future, but things always change.
Coach Chad Morris, Coach Step, they really look for two-sport athletes. Coach Morris said it from the day that he was hired. He really looks for those type of guys because it shows they can be coached in a lot of different ways. How big was that when you was able to meet Coach Morris on your LSU unofficial and, get the gist of, just what he looks for in a player?
It was great being with him for the first time. It's great that he likes two-sport athletes, because I am a two-sport athlete, and he knows what it takes, and he knows the time that two-sport athletes have to put in, especially on the field, but off the field as well. And that's great that we both can relate on that type of level.
When you look at you're from Georgia. I know you had a lot of in-state schools and SEC schools in the South after you, Xavier. Being the first commit from the state of Georgia, you have some connections to a particular quarterback, Aaron McLaughlin. He came to Fayetteville last summer for a quarterback camp. And also, too, Joshua Downs, another elite wide receiver in the state of Georgia that Arkansas recently made an offer. Have you started the process of, putting more diamonds in the Diamond Gang with you to this point?
As of right now, I haven't started that process yet. but I will in the near future.
When I come to Denmark High School, buy popcorn. I like my drink, no ice. I get the popcorn. I'm going to the top bleacher in the stadium. Tell me what type of football player I'm going to see when that ball's kicked off from number 23.
You're going to see a leader, a vocal leader. You're going to see an energetic guy. You're going to see a guy that loves to play the game, and you're going to see a guy that is going to change plays based on the coverages that the defense runs. And you're going to see a guy that can just make plays and score a touchdown.
The thing I've noticed, Zay, is your little brother seems to play a big factor in a lot of the unofficial visits. I see him in a lot of your photos. And it just seemed to me, when I saw that weekend with Arkansas, he just had a little bit of extra happiness in his face on the pictures that I've seen. Did he play a part at all on the visit and also your decision to be a Razorback?
Zeke did play a major role because he's my little brother. He looks up to me. More than likely, he told me a couple of days ago, more than likely whatever school I was in, he will want to attend that same school. So, and we have family up there in Arkansas. My cousin's husband is actually a weight training coach at Arkansas. So we kind of have a little bit of family up there. So it was great seeing him cooperate and just that joy and excitement on his face.
Have you decided on if you're going to be an early enrollee your senior year? Is that something you're just going to wait and sign, in February of your senior season, or is that still, being talked about with you and the family?
I really haven't talked about it with my family, but I would really like to come back my senior season and enjoy high school. And since we won a region state championship my first year with no seniors, we could definitely make a run for state this year and next year. So I would love to be a part of that.
Well, and lastly, what receivers, Xavier, do you watch either collegiately or professionally, on Saturday or Sunday, and try to go out and add some of what they do to your game on Friday nights?
Mainly the receiver that I probably watch the most would definitely be Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins.
You can't go wrong with those two. We're talking with 6'4", 215-pound new Arkansas Diamond Gang commit Xavier Capers out of Alpharetta, Georgia Denmark High School here on the Hill. Last question I have for you, Xavier, and I'm gonna give a question. I want you to finish the statement. When football is over for Xavier Capers, he'll be doing what afterwards?
I will be giving back to the community. I will have my master's degree in sports.
Well, as always, my man, I love having you on. Tell Coach Crowder, thanks for sending me someone that I know, and and let him know you're in good hands once you get to Fayetteville, because a guy of his is a guy of mine. But as always, Z, thanks for taking time out on the Hill, my man.
Oh, yes, sir.
That was 2020 new Arkansas wide receiver commit out of Alpharetta, Georgia Denmark High School, Xavier Capers. I'm telling you, Demetrius, you watched the kid's highlight film. What's your take on what you just saw?
Just a big body guy, somebody that really knows how to use his body when catching the football, and a guy that's not scared to block. Most wide receivers you will say are pretty boys. So I just like that he has that grit mindset and isn't scared to see his teammates make plays.
I mean, when you think about this class, you look at the receivers, Coach Stepp, Coach Morris, and that offensive staff have brought in from the day that they took the job. Mike Wood, 6'4", Trey Knox, Traylon Burks, Shamar Nash, TQ Jackson, all 6'3" to 6'5", and now you get Xavier Capers at 6'4". You kind of think they're trying to stretch out at the wide receiver spot, Demetrius, or is that just the way you have to be with so many big receivers in the South, and in particular in the SEC?
Definitely, you have to have that high end, take the top off type of receiver, especially in the SEC when you have so many high caliber defensive linemen, because we all know this is the trenches league, and it's won in the trenches. So I think if you have that high caliber receiver that can really that 4'4", 6'4", 6'5" type of guy, it really gives you options to run high power offense. And I also think it just shows why Coach Stepp is in the top 25 in recruiting. You know, he's going to get guys in the 19 class and already started with the 20. So I think, again, it's a sign of the type of recruiters and the type of coaches Arkansas has here.
Well, we're going to show a sign of some of our questions as we're going to take our open period to talk to Pat, Demetrius, and myself. We're going to take a quick break and answer a few questions from you listeners. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Back in a bit.
Starting make the beat.
Welcome back. It's our Monday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. And for those of you that just tuned in, we just finished up our interview of new Arkansas Diamond Gang commit in the 2020 class. Xavier Capers of Alpharetta, Georgia, Denmark High School, 6'4", 215, is the first class of 20 commitment to Coach Mo. You like it? You like that new name, the way I got it, Coach Mo? That's jigging, ain't it?
What's that jigging?
That's my new word, jigging.
Yeah.
That word jigging. Home guy. What do you? We got a question from one of our viewers, CJ. Why does the AAU in Arkansas deter kids from choosing the U of A? That's a good question, but for some odd reason, all my years of dealing with AAU, I've been a boys coach and both girls coaches. There's always seemed to be a disconnect with the U of A and the athletes in the state, in particular the basketball programs for both men's and women's, and that's just something you never could figure out. In my, all my years, that is a tough question, and it has to be fixed. I think there's got to be a bridging of the gap, but a lot of that has to do with Nolan Richardson. A lot of that is the Nolan Richardson effect. I think a lot of those parents, and I go back, and this is not a racist statement, but it's something I feel has to be said. As a black African-American man, 16 years old, I grew up, and my figure was Jim Chaney, John Thompson, and Nolan Richardson. And as a teenager, those are the guys that I looked up to. And a lot of these same fathers and mothers were, having these guys as their figures. And I feel like, with Little Rock, a lot of that stuff, the trial and so much took place in that area. A lot of those African-American men and women got a chance to see a lot of the not so pleasantry between Nolan Richardson and the university. And it was really hard to watch as, the relationship between Nolan and the university deteriorated to a certain degree after all that Coach Richardson had done, and will continue to do. I think to this day, Demetrius, if things could be mended on that side, then I think you would see the AAU coaches in the state of Arkansas start to have a little bit more love to the University of Arkansas. What's your general take on it? Because being a black African teenager growing up, those are my three idols. That was the three men I looked at, and women that African-American women they were just that view of it can be done. Anybody, when you set your mind to it, you can achieve great things. And what's your take on that?
I really didn't play or have the privilege to do the basketball circuit in Arkansas, but from what I see, I think it's all about relationships. Right. I think Mike Anderson does try to go out there and build those relationships, but I think it's such a contrasting style with what AAU is doing and what Mike Anderson is doing. Right. Then let me go over to Malik Monk. When you have a Malik Monk, that his AAU program is the Woods. He didn't come to Arkansas. So when you have guys that don't have ties to the University of Arkansas running these AAU programs, and you're asking why these programs don't have their kids going to Arkansas, is because they have no ties. It's all about relationships. I'm going to take that Chad Morris approach. You have to go out and find ways to get these guys interested in the University of Arkansas. We have to go back to giving guys the history of NBA players that came here, giving guys the history of what makes Arkansas special, because again, when you have, and this is no disrespect to Malik Monk, but when you have a current figure in Malik Monk, which in my generation, he's probably the biggest athlete to come out of Arkansas. So when you have him going to Kentucky and you see him having his AAU team, and you start seeing his players go to Kentucky, people see that. So again, I think it's going to boil down to people making relationships and really getting people to come up to the University of Arkansas and see what it has to offer, and to really tag on what you said, and that Nolan Richardson. I think that needs to be addressed. I think once that issue with that court is kind of put out there, I think a lot of people will change the kind of mindset and stereotypes that they have with the University of Arkansas. Yeah,
because that's the last step to giving a man what he rightfully earned in the 16 years here at the University of Arkansas. And that is if you're an African male or female adult growing up, to you, that's a little disrespectful if you have coaches coming into your school either on the men's or women's side and recruiting basketball to the University of Arkansas. I've covered recruiting for so many years, Dimitri, and it's a dirty game. It's a dirty game. If you don't think coaches badmouth the University of Arkansas and play the race card, you are not living in the real world, people, and you need to wake up. Smell the sauce and wake up. But that's for another day. As we'll continue on, I want to give a thank you to our guest, Steve Andrews, contributing writer for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, for coming on and sharing his thoughts on Courtney Dyfel and the Arkansas ladies softball program, as they had a fabulous weekend. I mean fabulous weekend. Went undefeated down in Lake Charles as they open up their season. Like I said, what a great weekend. Also, too, Xavier Capers, the first of the Diamond Gang 2020, came on and talked about his reasons for just wanting to become an Arkansas Razorback and start that recruiting process for that class as well. And also to my producer, the best in the business, Demetrius Johnson. We call him Demigod in these parts. Until tomorrow, give a shout out to our sponsors. I always seem to do that, Demetrius, before we get out, and they wouldn't be too happy if I forgot that.
Mr.
Lindsay and Associates with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also too in Rogers. The Baymont Hotel, it's located at 735 South Shiloh Drive in Fayetteville, and Locomotion, just below the Northwest Arkansas